Gimel in Mesilas Yesharim. We started yesterday the Niddah of Prishus. If you remember again, the Ramchal introduced to us this incredible idea of Prishus, meaning separating yourself from what? So you remember again, the Ramchal highlighted that there are three different categories of separation. There is, of course, Isurei D'Oraisa, biblical prohibitions, things the Torah tells us we cannot do. Then there are, based on that, Isurei D'Rabbanan, rabbinic prohibitions that are there to create a boundary around the biblical prohibitions. And then lastly, which is what we're focusing on in this chapter, are the additional harchekim, the additional, we'll call it buffers or boundaries, that every person needs to create for themselves based on my own disposition, my own frailties, my own weaknesses, what it is that I'm susceptible to. And it's in this category of prishus where I identify the things that are technically mutter, technically permitted, but I choose not to engage in them in order to go ahead and create a buffer, in order to create a protective fence. Again, all of this in an effort to bolster my own holiness. Ve'in tomar, minayin alonu lihios mosifim v'holchim b'isurim. So just to give you, by the way, just to illustrate that model, so what Ramchal would say is that, anytime a person has a problem, let's say a person, chas v'shalom, has an addiction. So how do they go ahead and deal with the addiction? So of course, number one is don't engage in the forbidden substance, right? Don't take the drugs, don't drink the alcohol. Then ultimately, again, there is a geder. The geder would probably be, don't go to a bar, right? Don't go to a bar, right? That's a good protective fence around that. But then a person might choose to say, you know what? I need some additional things to change in my lifestyle that are fine, that by themselves are innocuous. But I know that I have to change it in order to go ahead and ensure that I don't go ahead and once again fall into that negative behavior. So maybe it's saying I'm not going to associate with certain people. Maybe it's saying I'm not going to engage in certain recreational activities, because those activities themselves, while they are permitted, often lead to other things. We have this all the time in life. That's the din of prishus. V'im tomar, minayin lanu lios mosifim v'holchim b'isurim. So says Ramchal, how do you know that there's even such a concept of adding on prohibitions? After all, v'hari chachaminu zichronim livracha amru, lo dayecha ma'asha asra Torah she'ata ba le'asor alecha dvarim acherim. So remember again, he goes to Yerushalmi here, the Yerushalmi says, the rabbis prohibited enough. God prohibited enough. There's absolutely no need to go ahead and prohibit more than is already prohibited. V'hari masharou chachamenu zichron livracha b'chachmaso shetzarech le'asar v'lasos mishmeres kavar aso u'ma shenichu leheter hu mipnei shera'u hayoso ra'i leheter v'lo le'iser v'lam nechadish ata gziros asher lo ra'u heim ligzar osam. So Ramchal says again, and also it's actually a very validating statement. Avisi Chadash Baruch Hu made his prohibitions. Chazal, right, the rabbis made their prohibitions, again, all in an effort to protect biblical law. But there's a concept that don't go aser something, don't go prohibit something that Chazal did not prohibit. If Chazal said it's okay, they prohibited enough stuff. If they wanted it to be aser, they would say that it's aser. If they didn't say it's aser, then it's mutter. So now why should I come along and start adding on additional personal isurim for myself? Where do we get this concept that I should be adding on additional gidarim, additional protective fences for myself? So he goes on, he says, another problem. Shein gvul davrazeh. Furthermore, I'm going to say, this is such an incredible statement. There's no boundary. In other words, once you get into this idea that I should go ahead and be parush, that I should go ahead and establish within myself this midah of separation and distance myself even from those things that are permitted, lest they lead to something that is prohibited, isn't there a concern that this is like a personalistic black hole, right? Isn't there a concern that at the end of the day, ein l'davar sof, you could keep on asering and asering and asering and asering. Look what he writes. Shin gvul davar v'nimsa. We'll say these words are incredible. V'nimsa im came ha'adam shomem umu'una v'lo nana min ha'olam klal. I will say, do you know what happens when you? This is a very powerful statement. Do you know what happens when you keep piling on chumras? Do you know how you keep piling on chumras? Chumrah after chumrah after chumrah after chumrah. People become miserable. People become miserable. We see this, by the way, right? Mamish, you don't need imagination. We see this happen all the time. Again, chumras are exceptionally important. And stringencies in halacha and stringencies in Yiddishkeit are absolute necessities in different areas. But when you keep chumrah after chumrah after chumrah, you keep adding on, a person loses that that joy of life. A person, it saps a person of vitality. It drains out all individuality. His wording is so strange here. Shomem u'ma'una. Shomem means desolate, right? Mu'una means afflicted. V'lo nehna min ha'olam klal. And a person won't find any joy in life. And furthermore, the Chazal said, Kos Yushami, listen, this is wild. Says Yushami in Kiddushin, Sha'asad Adam litain din lifnei hamakom, al kol ma shara'u einav v'lo ratza le'echol mimenu, afa pi shahaya mutar lo v'haya yachol. Let's listen to this. After 120, one of apparently the many things that we're going to have to give judgment for is the food that we saw with our eyes, but we didn't eat. Things that were mutter, right? But ultimately, again, I didn't partake of it. And what does that mean? And I'm supposed to partake of everything. First of all, again, we're going to see contrary ma'amari chazal. What the Ramchal is saying, what it means is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I gave you a world, right? And that world is filled with beautiful things. And I created those beautiful things for you to enjoy them. That's why they're here. Enjoy the world, enjoy your life. And so after 120, this is incredible. The same way that I have to give din v'cheshbon for the things I've done wrong, I also have to give din v'cheshbon for perhaps not enjoying HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world enough. Now, I'm not too worried about saying din v'cheshbon on that one. I think I have that one pretty much covered, right? But again, the sentiment is incredibly amazing, right? So what the Ramchal is saying over here is, how do you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually wants us to add on all of these personalistic prohibitions in an effort to safeguard our spirituality? After all, again, adding on additional levels of personalistic prohibition, doesn't that run the risk of sapping the joy from life? And don't we have an obligation to go ahead and enjoy life, enjoy HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world? So aren't we concerned that this is going to leave a person these additional levels of personalistic prohibition, that is going to leave me what the Ramchal says, Shomem u'ma'una, paragraph Dalid, Hatshuvahi, they both say, so the answer to this is, Ki aprishos vada, they both say, I have to tell you, I'm sure you see this also, like, to read something like this in a sefer of Musar is such an incredible thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to enjoy life. It's very important. Sometimes people don't think this, and they think that the greatest metric of personal piety is the more tzibrachin and angry and braigis and disenchanted and disconnected from the world that you look. The whole that's a holy guy, right? He looks so miserable. Mamish, I'm mekana him, right? I'm mekana that level of dveikus b'Hashem. I say that's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be happy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to enjoy life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu even wants us to enjoy the material world. After all, again, why would He have created so much material stuff if He didn't want us to enjoy it? Of course, He wants us to enjoy it responsibly, and He wants us to enjoy it ultimately, again, b'kedusha u'b'tara, but He wants us to enjoy it. I think sometimes this is so lost, that we think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to disassociate, disengage, disconnect from the world. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created it, He wants us to enjoy it. So also we'll do one more line and we'll stop. Paragraph Daled. So what's the tshuva, what's the answer? Ki aprishos vaday tzarich u'muchrach. Prishus is an absolute necessity. You must have prishus. V'yishiru alav chachamim zikron l'vracha page kuf mem gimel huma shene'emar kedoshim tiyu prushim tiyu. So we'll say, so remember again, the Ramchal says also, with this we'll have to stop here for today, that the mandate for prishus is really learned out from the concept ultimately of kedoshim tiyu. So remember again, Yidoshim Tiyu, which means to be holy, at first glance is a seemingly amorphous obligation. What does it mean to be holy? Of course, our entire life is about becoming holy. So what's the nature of this particular command? So remember again, you have Rashi brings it down at Rayas, but of course the Ramban already brings down this idea, Kadeshes Atzmicha B'mashem Mutralach. It's about sanctifying yourself with that which is permitted. Even if something is permitted, doesn't mean I should have it. And understanding what it is that I should prohibit to myself in an effort to facilitate my growth and to safeguard my spirituality is an incredibly important and indispensable part of our Yiddishkeit. So also we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up tomorrow, the Ramchal will build on this concept of Prushim to you. What is Kedoshim to you? Prushim to you. Be separate. Kadeshes atzmicha b'mashem mutlach. We'll continue tomorrow, Meretz Hashem. All right, we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Memches. Exciting daf ahead of us today. We are picking up on Mem Zayin Amud Beis 47b, and we are picking up at Ki Asul Kamed Rabbi Chia. A lot to do today. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 lines up from the bottom. Our shir this morning is dedicated by the Levitan family in gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the birth of a son to their daughter and son-in-law Rebecca and Andrew Lillian. Mazel tov to Greg and Rachel Levitan. Dedicated and sponsored by Greg and Rachel Levitan in honor of the birth of their grandson to their children, Rebecca and Andrew. And with a hearty mazel tov to the grandparents, to the other side of grandparents, Richard and Judy Lillian of Great Neck, New York. Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. And of course, a thank you to our Talmud Torah sponsors, to Josh and Becca Friedman, for dedicating all of his shiurim this month. Le'ilui Nishmas Josh, his father Yisrael Yehuda ben Rav Chaim Rafael, and Semi and Malka Esterson for dedicating the shiurim. Le'ilui Nishmas, their parents Yitzchok Leib ben Aaron HaKohen, Sarah Rachel Bas Baruch, and Hinda Bas Henech Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah and the family in Nechama. We will say with that, let us continue. So the Gemara says as follows: Kiasul Kamed Rabbi Chia. So let's remember again, the Mishnah introduced us to the concept of the sris and the islandness, specifically talking about again a man or a woman who reaches a certain age, machlokes beishayim beisilal, exactly what age failed to go ahead and exhibit signs of maturation, and halacha l'maisa again their particular status. So the Gemara says as follows: when sometimes one of these people come for Rabbi Chia, ikachish amlu avri. If the boy who came, or if the person who came before him was exceptionally thin, he would encourage them to put on some weight. Ibari, if they were heavy, right? Amrlu achusha, you could lose a couple. Dahani simanin zinin da'asu machmas kechishusa, zinin da'asu machmas biriusa. We'll say, what was the logic? That sometimes being too skinny or being too heavy could ultimately again impact the progression of the simanim. So therefore, again, this is interesting. So before, the idea that the Gemara is saying over here is before Rabbi Chia would declare someone as a sris or as an islandess, so halacha l'maisa, he would go ahead and tell them that perhaps you have to adjust certain things in your lifestyle to allow. We're actually going to see this in a couple of different Gemaras as well. The Amarav Hilchasa Bekuli Pirkei Me'is Leis. So we'll see here Rav says something very interesting. When we speak about ages, Rabbi says, so remember again, whenever you speak about reaching a particular age threshold, there are two different ways that you can understand that age threshold. Ne'is la'is, which means complete years, or into the year. So for example, when the Gemara says that a man becomes a sris at the age of 20, for example, what does that mean? Does that mean 20 complete years? That's called ne'is la'is, 20 complete years? Or I will say it doesn't mean into the 20th year. So it could really be 19 full years and 1 day. So Rav comes along and says that in this parak, whenever we speak about ultimately again, whenever we speak about years, it's always complete years me'es la'es. V'ula amar, Ula said disnan tinan, udlo tinan lo tinan. It depends on the context, right? When it's explicitly stated that it's referring to complete years, then it's complete years. If it doesn't say it, then it's not. Look at Rashi for just a moment. B'kuli pirka me'es la'es, Rashi says, Chashvina lashana v'lo basra minyan olam, sheyom echad shal shnas esim chashav shana. So we'll say, so again, that's what it means me'es la'es, complete years. Next Rashi, disnan tinan, hecha ditnan, Yom Echad Kegon Bas Shalosh Shana Yom Echad the Kulu Dumasisim Arsev. So we'll say, so again, so comes along Ula, and Ula says it depends on the context. When it's stated, then ultimately again it's Me'is Le'is. When it's not stated, it's not Me'is Le'is. Bishlama Le'ula Hainu Diktani Hacha Yom Echad V'Hacha Lo Katani. So we'll say according to Ula, so it makes sense why sometimes when speaking about ages, the Mishnah will add in X number of years and 1 day. And other times the Mishnah will add in X number of years and not 1 day. Ela Rav listening, but according to Rav, why wouldn't that be stated? Votanya, furthermore, Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar Omer Shon Rabbi Eliezer, Shnas Esim Shiyatzem Imenu Shloshim Yom. Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar ultimately says the name of Rabbi Eliezer that the 20th year, so we'll say, talking about the Sris again, the 20th year, and which there are 30 days into the 20th year, Harehi Kishnas Esrim L'chol Devareha. So we'll say, so what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa, once you are 30 days into the 20th year, that is considered as if, again, the man is fully 20 years old. V'chein hora Rabbi belud, shnas shmona esrei shetzim and shloshim hari kishnas shmona esrei l'chol dvareha. Once you're into the 30 days into the 18th year, that is like the 18th year in its totality. Bishlama de Rabbi ud Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar lo kasha. So according to Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar, it's not a contradiction. It reflects two different opinions. One is Beis Shammai, one is Beis Hillel. Ela Rav Kashya. But according to Rav, what do you do with this Tanahi? To which the Gemara says, in reality, this is a machlokes Tanaim. This Sanya. Rabbi say, here we go. Now the machlokes Tanaim say is actually a yisodistic machlokes that is not just about here in terms of determining the age of the Swiss or the islandess, but rather again a yisodistic machlokes in general about how you reckon time. Whenever we talk about years, so let's remember again two different ways to track years. What we call me'es le'es, which means full years. Full years. The clock starts at the beginning of the process, and let's say if it's 2 years, it would be 2 years from now until later on, but 2 complete years. As opposed to what we'll call a little bit differently as calendrical years. Right? So we'll say calendrical years means what? So a calendrical year could mean, if let's say for 2 years, could mean the remainder of this year and the entirety of the following year. Or 30 days could count as a year. Or 1 day could count as a year. So the Gemara says as follows. Well, so it's actually quite interesting. This Anya. Shana Hamura B'Kadshim. So we'll say the year that is mentioned by Kadshim. Now what's the year mentioned by Kadshim? Certain karbanos have to be within a year. Have to be under a year old. Certain animals have to be under a year old. That's the year. Right? Or Shana Hamura B'Kadshim. Shana Hamura B'Bate Arichoma. We'll say if you buy a home in a walled city, you have 1 year in which to redeem that home. 1 year in which to redeem that home. If you don't redeem it in that first year, it never comes back to even Yovel. So that year, we'll say if you sell an ancestral field, the halacha is that you could redeem it, but you can't redeem it for the first 2 years after the sale. Sheish shanim sheba eved ivri, when you sell an eved ivri for 6 years. V'chin sheba ben v'sheba bas, and similarly again the years of a son and a daughter. Now both say now bepashtos, what that is referring to is the halachos of sris and islandess. That's what Rashi says. Sheba ben sheba bas kasavar hainu ben esrim shana ubas esrim shana demas nisin. Alma me'es le'es ba'inan aliba dahaitana farach. So we'll say, so listen to this. Sheba ben sheba bas. Ultimately, again, that's talking about the years of a Swiss and islandess. In all of these cases, kulan me'es le'es. I will say, in all of these cases, the years that are mentioned are complete years. Complete years. So the clock, it's not a calendrical, it's a calendrical year, but understand it's 2 complete years that are measured from the time that the process begins. Shana Amura B'Kachim. So how do we know? So we're going to go through each of these. How do we know that the year mentioned by Kachim is a complete year? Amar Vacha Bar Yaakov, Amar Kra, Keves Ben Shnaso. Shnaso shalo, v'lo shana shel minyan olam. So also it teaches us that it's the year of the keves, not the year of the counting of the world, what we'll call a calendrical year. Right? So a calendrical year has a defined beginning and a defined end. So you might have thought that as long as the keves is within the calendrical year, it's a year old. No. It means its own year. Next, then how do I know that the year of redemption for a home in a walled city ultimately, again, is a full year? So the Gemara says, Amakra ad tom shnas mem karo, till the end of the year of its sale. Mem karo shalo, v'lo shnas shal minyan olam. It means the year of the sale of that home, and not the calendrical year. Shtei sharon sheb'sadei achuzim min olam. We'll say, how do I know? So we'll say, so again, you see the common theme here. It's all the Torah uses almost like a possessive language in terms of the measurement of time. Next, what about Stei Achuza? That ultimately, again, you can't redeem it for the first 2 years. Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, "B'misbar top of memches, b'misbar shnei tevuos yimachar lecha." We'll say ultimately again that it says that halacha l'maisa for the number of years of the misra shtei tevuos, literally means like the number of years of production of crop, will it be sold to you? Pamim sha'ata mocher shlosha tevuos b'shtei shanim. Sometimes it could happen that in fact over the course of 3 years, over the course of 2 years, you actually sell the value ultimately again of 3 crops, depending on what time of year you sell the field. How do I know the 6 years of an Eved Ivri? How do I know that halacha l'maisa, that's 6 full years? The pasuk says ubashvius, because the pasuk sheishanim yavod ubashvius, 6 years the Eved shall work, and on the 7th year it goes out free. Ubashvius nami yavod. So ultimately, again, what that means is that sometimes even into the 7th year, the Eved is already working. What does that mean? The Rabbi says sometimes, depending on the way the Eved is sold, in the 7th calendrical year, the Eved may still be. And so the Rabbi says is very important because people sometimes think that the sale of an Eved Ivri is a din in Shemitah, right? Because again, it's 6 years working, 7th year Shemitah, 6-year Eved, 7th year going free. The 6 years of an Eved, the Gemara is telling us over here, is 6 years that begins from the sale of the Eved. And it's 6 complete years. The way the Gemara is learning that out is it says, Sheishnim yavod ubashvius. So we'll say, so 6 years the Eved shall go ahead and work. Now it says, ubashvius yetzi lechav shichinam. The Gemara is reading a little bit differently. It's almost saying, Sheishnim yavod ubashvius. And sometimes, before the Eved goes free on the 7th year, the Eved actually what? The Eved actually works on the 7th year. How could that be? Oh, because it could happen that it's the 7th calendrical year, but what? The Eved has not yet completed his 6 full years of service. So he may therefore end up working on the 7th year as well. So Sheba ben Sheba bas. So we'll say, so too in the case of a son and a daughter. L'may hilchas. We'll say, so what does this mean? Am Rav Gidel, Am Rav le'inyan erchin. Rav Gidel said in the name of Rav, it means, I will say, for erchin purposes. Rashi says, le'erchin dehecha dichsev mi ben shishim shana umala pshitalan deshnas shishim kilamata daha umala ksiv. Aval ben chamesh delo ksiv ela mi ben chamesh shanim va'ad ben esrim shana v'lo ksiv mi ben chamesh shanim umala. So I will say, the idea for erchin means what? Remember, erchin means personal valuation pledges, right? A person could pledge their erech vow to the Beis Hamikdash, or a person could pledge the erech vow of someone else, ultimately again to the Beis Hamikdash. So I will say, so the interesting part over here is that halacha l'maisa, how do you determine ages? It's not determined by calendrical years, but rather, again, it's determined by personal years. That's the idea of Ben Ubas. So the Gemara says, Rav Yosef Amar, Rav Yosef says, no, lepirkin diyotze dofen. No, in fact, Ben Ubas applies to the conversations we're having over here in what? In Perek Yotze Dofen. We'll say that's the name of our Perek. Perek Yotze Dofen. That ultimately, again, wherever the Mishnah just talks about years in general and doesn't say a certain number of years, v'yom echad, then what? We'll say, then halacha l'maisa, that refers to complete years. So Amar le Abaye. So Abaye says, Amar le Abaye mi pliga. So Abaye says, are you arguing? Amar le lo. Hu amar chada va'ana amina chada v'lo palginan. Ultimately, again, he said, we're not arguing. We're just both espousing a different application or a different interpretation of Ben Ubas, but we both agree on both of them. So ultimately, again, Ben Ubas can apply both to all the statements here in Yosei Dofen could also apply to Erchin. So the Gemara says, because if you think that they're arguing, man Amar la Erchin lo Amar li Yosei Dofen. So we'll say if you're going to say that the one who says for Erchin doesn't agree that it's for the cases in Yosei Dofen, Rav said Hilchasa Bekula Pirkin. So ultimately again, Rav said the halacha throughout our entire parak is me'es leis. I will say that ultimately again, everything through our parak, halacha lemaisa is me'es leis, which means the years that are mentioned are always complete years. But according to the opinion who said that Benu Bas refers to Erchin, why does he not say that it'll apply to the cases in our parak? Dumya dahanach. So we'll say because ultimately the case of Benu Bas has to be similar to all the other cases espoused as part of this brisa. How so? Mahanach techsiven. Just in all of these cases that are mentioned over here in the brisa, ultimately again they're all explicitly written in the Torah. Avhani nami dichsivan. So too ultimately again Benu Bas has to be a case that's explicitly written. Now I will say the halachos of Erchin are explicitly written. The halachos of Sris and Eilinus are not. Therefore, the opinion that understands that Benu Bas in the Brisa is referring to Erchin, because again, Erchin, like all the other halachos, Eved Ivri, Bate Arichoma, Steachuza, these are psukim that are written. Therefore, he chooses to interpret Benu Bas referring to something that is written as well, Erchin, as opposed to Swiss and Islanders, which is not V'idach. The other opinion will say, Hai Sheba Ben Sheba Bas Sheba Zachar Shanakevim Mibaile. So I will say, here's the other opinion says, even though you're right that the halachos of Swiss and Islanders are not mentioned, if it was really referring to Erchin, you shouldn't use the lashon of Ben or Bas. What should you use the lashon of? Zachar and Nekeva. Why? Because we'll say Zachar and Nekeva, that's the biblical lashon ultimately by Erchin. So if you're talking about Erchin, use the proper lashon. Halacha Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar, Shem Rabbi Eliezer. So also Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachmani said the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar, who said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer. I will say that, remember, Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar said that when it comes ultimately again to the 20th year, again the context over here is by Sris. When it comes to the 20th year, he said, Shnas Shloshim Yom, Hari Kishnas Esun L'chol Doreha. So what Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar holds, that the definition of a 20-year-old man is someone who is 19 full years and 30 days. That halacha l'maisa, once you pass the 30-day mark after the 19th year, that is considered to be a 20-year-old. Reb Zera said, "Eske ve'esik ve'agmar l'shmaita mipumei dimara." So Rabbi Zera said, one day, I want to go up and I want to hear this teaching directly from the mouth of Rabbi Eliezer. Ashkechel Rabbi Eliezer Amrle Amrit Halacha Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar. So ultimately, Rabbi Zera found Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi, did you say that Halacha follows Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar? Amrle Mistabra Amri. He said, I don't remember explicitly saying, but Bepashtas it makes sense that I did say it. Dimidikule Pirkin Tani Yom Echad Vahacha Lokatani Shmamina Mistabra Kavase. That ultimately, again, since throughout the entire parak, it normally says the age plus 1 day, but here it does not. It would appear that the halacha follows this particular approach. So I will say, this happens to be an interesting discussion in general about the reckoning of ages. Whenever we see complete years. Now remember, as we saw everything in this brisa, when it comes to these biblical halachas, so years mean me'es la'es. What about the ages mentioned in the Mishnah? So I'll tell you something interesting here. So the Shulchan Aruch, this is in Even HaEzer, Simin Kufnun Hey, Sif Yud Beis. So the Shulchan Aruch discusses as follows. He says, V'chol zman shelo hevia beis saros v'lo yolda, chashuva kitana, afilu nolda lo simani ailenis, avalim hi bas esrim, v'noldu bas simani ailenis, chashuva kigdola. So we'll say, so again, first of all, interestingly enough, we take the approach ultimately of Beis Hillel, that the ages for Sris and Eilinus are the same. They're both 20 years old, right? As opposed to Beis Shammai, who said 18. We're going to pass like Beis Hillel, that it's 20 years old. And ultimately, again, but listen to this. What's 20? So the Shulchan Aruch paskins, Ubas Yud Tes Shana Ushloshim Yom Dina Kibas Chaf. That ultimately, again, it's 19 years old and 30 days, right? So you don't need a complete 20 years. Rather, you need a complete 19 years and 30 days into the 20th year. Ultimately, again, is considered to be 20 years old. Dina kibas chaf, the lamid yom bashana, chashuv shana. Because 30 days in a year are considered to be like a complete year. So we'll say, others say just the opposite, the shita we didn't see in our Gemara. Others say it's that she can go almost the entire 20 years minus 30 days. We're going to leave that on the side. That's Yesh Omrim. So the idea is that the Shulchan Aruch does accept the position of Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar, that halacha l'maisa, for at least purposes of islandness, first of all, we're passing that it's for both men and women. It's at the age of 20, but halacha l'maisa, once she reaches 19 years old and 30 days, ultimately, again, that is going to be enough. Beautiful. Hadrin alach yotze dofen. Mazel tov, I will say. All right, let's go weiter. Good. Morty, I'm just giving you a warning. I don't know that all of this is child friendly, but I'm giving you're the parent. Good. I'm not paying any therapist bills. All right, says the Gemara. So we'll say, here we go. Good. Ba simin atachton ad shelo ba ha'elyon. So we'll say, here we go. So remember, speaking about the halachas of female maturation. So we'll say, remember again, we've already established that halacha l'maisa, that there are two different forms. There are two different forms of simanim, right? There's ultimately, again, upper simanim and lower simanim, right? So the upper simanim we discussed yesterday. The lower simanim are the appearance of shtei saras, two hairs. So the Gemara says, what happens? Ba siman atachton ad shelo ba ha'elyon. That ultimately, again, what happens if the siman atachton, the lower simanim, arrive and the upper simanim has not arrived? So we'll say, so again, that by itself is fine. O choletzes, o misyavemes. So we'll say, in that case, ultimately, again, she is considered to be a gidola. She is considered to be an adult, and that's when it uses the lashon of choletzes o misyavemes. That halacha l'maisa, she can do chalitza or yibum because ultimately she is a gidola. Ba elyon ad shelo ba tachton. So we'll say this is very interesting. What happens if the upper simanim develop right before the lower simanim? So we'll say, so what's the halacha? Afa pishi efshar. Now the Mishnah adds in a very interesting statement, even though this is impossible. Now we'll discuss exactly what the Mishnah means when it says, even though this is impossible. We'll see. Rabbi Meir says, lo choletzes v'lo misyavemes. Ultimately, again, Rabbi Meir says that halacha l'maisa, she doesn't do chalitza and she doesn't do yibum. So we'll say, so the idea that Rabbi Meir is saying over here is that halacha l'maisa, that's not a sign of physical maturation. Just development of the upper simanim without development of the lower simanim by itself is not going to be considered a sign of physical maturation. Again, we'll see what Rabbi Meir means in the Mishnah. The Chum say, o choletzes o misyavemes. The Chum say, no, even in that case, where there is the simanim elyonim and not simanim tachtonim, ultimately, again, she could do chalitza. Why? Mipnei she'amru efshar l'tachton lavo ad shelo ba elyon. So we'll say, so because the Chachamim say that halacha l'maisa, the upper simanim can go ahead and develop even without the lower simanim. Aval I efshar le'elyon lavo ad sheba tachton. But it is impossible, ultimately, again, for the upper simanim to develop without the lower simanim. So we'll say, the idea that the Chachamim are ultimately saying is as follows, which is that halacha l'maisa. So actually, we'll see in the Gemara. So we'll say, so here's what we have. So we have at first the Gemara telling us that halacha l'maisa basiman tachton ad shelo ba. One more time, let's just review that Mishnah. So if the siman tachton comes before the elyon comes, so ultimately again that halacha l'maisa is fine because it is the siman tachton that ultimately again is the true determinant. If the elyon comes before the tachton, so Rabbi say, so here Rabbi Meir says that's not a sign of physical maturation, therefore she can't do chalitza and yibum. The Chachamim say she can. Why? Because essentially we're going to see is the Chachamim hold that halacha l'maisa, it is impossible for the upper simanim to come without the lower simanim. So we'll say, so because of that, once the upper simanim come, that means the lower simanim were there, they just must have fallen out, the lower simanim. That's why they're not present right now. Good. Says the Gemara, Afa pishi efshar v'lo ba. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? when you say that it's not possible. So the Gemara says, how can you say it's not possible? The Mishnah is talking about a case where b'metzias, ultimately again, it's happening, to which the Gemara says, Ba l'Rabbi Meir afa pishi efshar l'Rabbanan. It happened according to Rabbi Meir, even though the Rabbanan hold that it's impossible. Also in Rabbi Meir's model, it is possible ultimately again for a girl to develop upper simanim without lower simanim. For the Chachamim, it's impossible. For the Chachamim, ultimately, again, it cannot happen. Velisni, so why don't you just go ahead and write as follows? Velisni ba elyon Rabbi Meir omer lo choletzes v'lo mesyav emes. Why don't you just say instead as follows? That if the upper simanim come, right, just the upper simanim, Rabbi Meir says she's not a gidola, therefore she can't do chalitza or yibum. The Chachamim say o choletzes o misyav emes. The Chachamim say ultimately again she can do chalitza or she could do yibum. The ani yedanan, I would know what's at the root of the machlokes. Mishum di efshar. Mishum di efshahu, to which the Gemara says ultimately again, because I would know that at the root of the machlokes is because it's not possible. Say, you saw the stick machlokes over here between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim, ultimately regarding whether or not what happens when the upper simanim come without the lower simanim. Rabbi Meir says that's not a sign of physical maturation, and the Chachamim say it is, because it's possible that the lower simanim were already there, but the simanim fell out. So why don't you just go ahead and mention this as the machlokes? To which the Gemara says, Hava mina, I would have thought, Rov nashim tachton asi bereisha, umiyut elyon asi bereisha, because I would have said as follows: the majority of women, the way physical maturation takes place is the lower simanim occur first, and then the upper simanim, umiyut elyon. But there is a miyut of women ultimately again whose upper simanim come first. Rabbi Meir litame dechaysh lemiuta, and Rabbi Meir goes according to his previously established. Rabbi Meir in general is the one who is choshesh for the miut. V'Rabbanan litamayo delo chaysh lemiute, but Rabbanan on the other hand ultimately again are choshesh for the miut. V'hani mili b'stama. This is true ultimately again only in a case of stam. Aval heicha debatkan v'lo ashkichan. Rabbi say where ultimately again she was checked and there was nothing found. Emar modu le v'Rabbanan. Perhaps again in that case, even Rabbi Meir would agree with the Rabbanan. Sorry. Rabbi Meir, the Rabbanan would agree with Rabbi Meir. The elyon kadim, that ultimately again the upper simanim could come. Kamash malan the efshar. So therefore the Rabbanan hold no, it is impossible. But in other words, it is impossible for the upper simanim to develop before the lower simanim. Vadai asi umintar hu dinasar. Rather, again, I will say once there is the appearance of upper simanim, ultimately again that is the indication that the lower simanim were there and halacha lemaisa again fell out. So we'll say again that's the nature of the machlokes here. Good. So we'll say says the Gemara Bishlam Rabbi Meir. Ultimately again this makes sense according to Rabbi Meir. Hainu dichsiv. So we'll say. So just to understand the yesodistic machlokes over here, right? So the yesodistic machlokes that's unfolding is that whether or not the appearance of upper simanim, right? What's the impact of that on lower simanim? So halacha l'maisa we have over here that according to Rabbi Meir, you could have the development of upper simanim without the development of lower simanim, which means what Rabbi was saying, which means that halacha l'maisa, a girl could mature, right, with the upper simanim, and again, that's no indication of what's happened with shtei saras. The Rabbanan, on the other hand, hold that is not the case. The Rabbanan hold that halacha l'maisa, once there is the development of upper simanim, by definition, there is definitely lower simanim. Definitely lower simanim. They're not there. It must be the hairs were there, but what? But they fell out. So what says now the Gemara is going to say as follows. So Bishlam the Rabbi Meir hainu dichsiv shadayim nechanu serech tzameach. So as according to Rabbi Meir, ultimately again the pasuk makes sense. The pasuk the Gemara is quoting over here is from Yecheskel. So the pasuk says that what shadayim nechanu, which literally means your breasts formed, v'sarech tzameach. And we'll say sarech tzameach literally means your hair sprouted. So the Gemara is understanding over here that this is a reference to the two signs of maturation, right? So upper simanim and lower simanim. Now, interestingly enough, the order is very interesting over here. What's coming first? The upper simanim. So according to Rabbi Meir, this makes sense because Rabbi Meir holds that you could have upper simanim even before lower simanim. According to Rabbanan, shouldn't the order be reversed? So Hakikam, this is what it means to say. Kevan sheshadayim nachonu biyadua shesarich tzameach. So this is what the Rabbanan say. Since ultimately again the breasts formed, ultimately again that is indicative that what? That she definitely sprouted 2 hairs as well. So I'll say, so interestingly enough, the way the Rabbanan view upper simanim is upper simanim are definitely indicative of lower simanim. That's for sure. Rabbi Meir is one who holds that you could have upper simanim even without lower simanim. So we'll say here another pasuk. The Gemara quotes over here from Yecheskel. The pasuk says, "Ba'asos mitzrayim dadayich leman shedei ne'urayich." So we'll say this pasuk is actually a metaphor over here for Yecheskel, from Yecheskel, for the misbehavior of the Jewish people, and it frames the misbehavior of the Jewish people almost like as a form of adultery. So literally, again, it says "Ba'asos mitzrayim dadecha," when the Mitzrim touched your dadayim, which is again, it's a metaphor over here for adultery. So shadai ne'urayich, literally again, I'll say the way they're translating is your ne'urayich, right? Your simane na'aros sprouted forth. So once again, what it's doing is it's mentioning shadayim, breasts, before it's mentioning hair. Right, before it's mentioning hair, and the hair over here is a reference ultimately to pubic hair. So therefore, again, the order over here is very important, to which the Gemara says, so according to Rabbi Meir, this makes sense, because you could have upper simanim before lower simanim. El Rabbanan ipchami baile, but according to the Rabbanan, shouldn't the order be just the opposite? Hachikam, this is what it means to say, Kevan shabao dadayich biadua shabao neurayich. Once again the breasts develop, that is definitely indicative that what? That halacha lamaisa, the pubic hairs are there as well. Uvi baisema, my shadei, kula bidadayin ksiv. The other possibility is that the pasuk actually is not a reference at all to hair, but rather ultimately again is a reference to the upper physical maturation. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Klal Yisrael Amud Beis, if ich rifu dadecha lo hadarta bach ishtadu. When your breasts began to develop, you didn't do tshuva, and even when they fully developed, you still didn't do tshuva. So we'll say, so ultimately, again, the upper maturation of the woman is a metaphor over here for the growth of Klal Yisrael. When you were young, you didn't do tshuva. When you were older, you didn't do tshuva. So we'll say, so again, so remember, so halacha l'maisa, the fundamental machlokes that we have over here is really a fascinating machlokes. Which is that halacha l'maisa. What do you do if a girl just presents with signs with what we call upper simanim, right? Development of breasts, but without any kind of indication that there are shtei sa'aros. Rabbi Meir says the upper simanim is not an indication of gadlus, because it's possible, according to Rabbi Meir's model, for there to be upper maturation without lower maturation. The Chum say impossible. Upper maturation only occurs in the aftermath of lower maturation. And even if there are no saras to be seen, we assume that they were there, but they fell out. That's the fundamental machlokes. Says the Gemara, D'chuli alma miha atachton. I will say mem chesam beis, second line down. D'chuli alma miha atachton samchinan minalan. So we'll say, so remember, so here's what we know. So we can have a machlokes about what happens when there's upper maturation without lower maturation, or without visible lower maturation. But one thing that is clear, which is what? Everyone agrees that shtei sa'aros is a sign of physical maturation. So where do you know that from? Our Gemara says, how do you know that you can rely on that for physical maturation? Minalan, amrav. So we'll say, which is such a fascinating shayla, because remember, we're relying on these shtei sa'aros for so many different things in halacha, right? Dramatic things in halacha. So the Gemara says, from where do you know this? Well, as it says the Gemara, Amarav, and I'll tell you what's even more interesting about this is, now that the Gemara is making this distinction between upper maturation and lower maturation, upper maturation, of course, is is noticeable, right? Lower maturation, you begin to see, first of all, is certainly not noticeable, right, in a clothed state, but even in an unclothed state, we see that there's the concern that even if the girl once had the shtei saras, what could happen? They could fall out. So the Gemara says, from where do you know? It's so fascinating. We'll say, right, we've been through, we'll say, we're only, I think, 26 days away from finishing Shas. Right? So amazingly enough, this is such a yesodistic question about how do I know that shtei sa'aros is what we rely on. So much of what we learned over the last 7.5 years has been based on this principle. And now at the end of Shas, we're talking about, by the way, how do we know to rely on this? So it says the Gemara, Minalan, Amrav Yehuda, here we got Ram Yehuda, Amrav, the King turned to Rabbi Shmuel, Amakra, Isha, Kiyas Mikol Chato Sa'adam. Because we'll say the pasuk says if a man or a woman will go ahead and commit an Aveira. So the Gemara says, Hishva Kasav Isha Le'ish L'chol Onshin Shabbatorah. The Torah compares a man and a woman, an Isha to an Ish, for the purposes of all Onshin, all punishment issues in the Torah. And to teach us what? Ma Ish B'simin Echad, Af Isha B'simin Echad. Just like a man, his maturation is determined by one siman. So remember again, what makes a boy a man? So we'll say ultimately again, the appearance of shtei saras, 2 hairs. So ultimately again, just like a man has one siman which determines his maturation, so to an isha has one siman shtei saras. I, ve'ema, oh hi. So we'll say, so one second. I'll agree with you that just like a man has one siman, which is the determinant of his maturation, so to a woman has one siman, which is the determinant of her maturation. But what? It could be what? Who's to say it's shtei saras? Maybe it's what? Maybe it's the development of her breasts. Maybe that's going to be the sign of physical maturation. How do you know that it's shtei saras? To which the Gemara says, because it's all based on the comparison. So the Gemara says, ki-ish, because remember again, the Torah is linking isha to ish. Ma ish tachton v'lo elyon, af isha tachton v'lo elyon. Just like Rabbi said, the signs of physical maturation for a man, ultimately again, is physical maturation below. So too again, for the woman, it is also going to be physical maturation below. In other words, we'll say, once we go ahead and we have this linkage between Isha and Ish, to teach us that, I will say, so for Onshin, remember again, Onshin only kicks in when? When are you only a bar Onshin? When? At adulthood. So we're linking men and women for purposes of adulthood. The drush is telling us that the simanim, that both men and women have simanim of adulthood, and we're linking those simanim. There is a common characteristic of adulthood that men and women share, which is the appearance of shtei saras. That supports this. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Sadok. Both say this is how they explain it in Yavne. V'chevon sheba tachton shuv ein mashkichin al elyon. Both say this is how they paskin in Yavne. Once there is the appearance of shtei saras, right, we don't worry about upper maturation. In other words, we'll say upper maturation only really comes about in a situation where what? Where we see upper maturation and we don't necessarily see signs of lower maturation. That's you come to the machlokes. The Charameir will say, sorry, physical upper maturation is no indication of lower maturation. Chacham say absolutely not. There's a progression, right? Upper maturation only comes when? In the aftermath of lower maturation. And even if there are no hairs to be seen, halach l'mais, we assume that's just because they went ahead and they fell out. So this is actually now, so bottom line, halach l'mais, now interestingly enough, we begin to see where we see the concept of shtei saras from. Everyone agrees that shtei saras ultimately again is the determinant ultimately of physical maturation. Machlokes are in the Chachamim. What happens if you have upper maturation without lower maturation? That's machlokes. We'll see the resolution of that in tomorrow's daf. But we'll say now we get into something very fascinating. Tanya, Benos Krachim. Listen to this. Girls from the cities, Tachton Mimaher Lavo. They tend to mature. They tend to sprout pubic hairs faster than their countryside counterparts. This is actually quite fascinating. Why? Because they bathe more regularly. So we'll say what this could actually mean is since they're bathing more regularly, what happens? Their pores are not clogged. Because the pores are not clogged, it's possible that they sprout pubic hairs before their countryside counterparts. So we'll say, Benos Kfarim, I'm going to read this and tell you something amazing. Benos Kfarim El Yom Emar. So this is very interesting. So girls from the villages tend to develop, their breasts develop earlier, because ultimately, again, tochnos berechayim means what? They go ahead and they turn the millstone. In other words, physical labor. So we'll say, so I was about to Google this yesterday, and then I said, bad idea. So I decided against that. So I'm just gonna but I'll tell you what's fascinating about this. What's fascinating about this, Rabbi says, what is the Gemara saying? That there's an incredible impact of lifestyle on physical maturation. So this we know to be absolutely true. I will say again, by the way, I just want to point out, this is true. There are even like this, right? This is even contemporary studies today about physical maturation in inner city populations versus other populations. They both say the impact of lifestyle on ultimately again on physical maturation. That's what Chazal are observing over here. So whether or not it actually means that if a girl who engages in more physical exertion, her simanim, right, her breasts develop earlier than a girl who doesn't. I don't know that that's the actual reason for it. But Lamais, what Chazal are observing is the impact of lifestyle on physical maturation, which is really quite amazing. Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Benos Ashir, this is fascinating, right? Girls from rich families, Sad Yamin Memaher Lavo. So I will say, interestingly enough, so now what Chazal are observing, and I will say this is just based on observation, is that apparently even in the maturation, sometimes one side of the chest matured a bit quicker. It doesn't appear that it was in anything dramatically noticeable, but one side of the chest would develop faster than the other. So Shmuel Elazar remarked that the girls from rich families, sometimes the right side develops a bit faster than the left. Why? Because those says apparently often the rich would wear some type of shawl. Rashi says, Me'uferes v'hu sudar v'tola al dad hayamin. So apparently, again, they would wear this type of shawl which was draped over the right side. So apparently, because of the friction between the shawl and the developing breast, would sometimes, I guess, cause it to develop a bit faster or somehow look more pronounced. Benosaniyim tzad small mimaher lavo, right? For girls from poor families, it was often the left side of the chest that went in and developed a little bit faster. Because they will say they would draw water, and ultimately, again, because of the drawing of water, there was a greater exertion. They would rest the buckets on that side. Obviously, because the girls from the poor families were often responsible for their younger siblings, so they would often go ahead and carry children on their sides. So it's really going ahead and referencing the fact that they would have more exertion on one side of the body and then the other, and this would cause one side of the chest to grow at a faster pace. Tan Rabbanon, tzad small, kodim letzad yamin. Shabbos says here, the Brisa says as follows: in general, the left side of the chest grows at a little bit of a faster pace than the right. Rabbi Chanina ben Achai, Rabbi Shomer, me'olam lo kadam tzad small tzad yamin. So we'll say Rabbi Chanina ben Achai says the name Rabbi Yoshua says no. In fact, that doesn't happen. Everything grows at the same pace, right? The only time it happened chutz mi'achas shahaisa b'shchunas is interesting, except for that one girl in my neighborhood, right? That one girl in my neighborhood shekadam tzad small letzad yamin, where apparently again I will say that what he's remarking over here is that there was a girl in the neighborhood, but again, there was apparently some type of issue. So under normal circumstances, everything grows at the same pace. Everything matures at the same pace. There was an issue one time with the girl in the neighborhood. Shekadam tzad small tzad yamin. Baruch Hashem, she was okay at the end. Everything kind of, I guess, equaled out at the end. But again, she had this staggered type of growth. Tan Rabbanon. Kol nekevos. So let's listen to this. All girls in general, nivdakos al pi noshim. So I'll say in general, when we speak about, now I'll say, now understand, in general, as we're going to see, you don't have to check a girl for 2 hairs. We assume, we're going to in just a moment, we assume that once a girl reaches a certain age, that those hairs are there. We make that's the chazaka. When there's a chazaka, remember, so the whole point of a chazaka is that what? You don't have to corroborate it. That's the power of chazaka. But in general, if you do have to do bedikos, of course, are done by women. V'chin haya Rabbi Eliezer Moshe Lish, Rabbi Eliezer would have his wife do it. Rabbi Yishmael Moshe Lima, Rabbi Yishmael would have his mother do it. Rabbi Huda Omer, it depends. Lifnei perek ula achar perek nashim both go sosam. So this is interesting. Rabbi Huda would say lifnei perek ula achar perek. So we'll say lifnei. So remember, this means before the perek. So we're going to discuss. Rashi says over here. Lifnei perek. Kodem onas nidarim shafilu evia shuma ninhu uktaner. So we'll say perek means what we call the mufles samuch leish time. That refers to the year before maturation. So for a boy, this would be the ages between 12 and 13. For a girl, this would be the ages between 11 and 12. That's called the perek. So Yehuda says, before the perek and after the perek, nashim bot gososan. Tocha perek, What about in that lead-up year? Ein nashim both goes osam. Both say during that year we can't have a woman do bedikas. Why not? She'im masin sveikes api nashim. Because they both say, according to Rabbi Yehuda, during that lead-up year, it's a suffix. Now it's a suffix about what the status is. If you find shtei saris, it's quite possible that she's going to be a gidola, but halacha lamaisa, it's a suffix. Because it's a suffix, we cannot ascertain a suffix based on the testimony of a woman. Because now we're dealing with edus. So when we're talking about chazakas, that's fine, a woman. But ultimately, again, when we're talking about sveikas, a sveika cannot be ascertained through a woman. Rabbi Shimon says, Aftocha perek, nashim both goes also. Rabbi Shimon says, no. Even during the lead-up year, a woman could do the bedika. Why? V'ne'emanas isha lahachmir avalo lahakel. But a woman will be believed to ultimately, again, be machmir, but not be makel. So let's remember again, what they're talking about over here is there are certain periods where the Eidos woman will be just fine. Before the perek, right, before the lead-up year, and after the lead-up year, it's fine, because we're just ascertaining chazakas. The question becomes, in that perek, in that lead-up year, Abosai, so there's a suffix about the identity of the child. So to go, is it a gadol or is it a katan? I cannot rely on a woman, ultimately, again, to give me eidos in that moment. Why? Because Abosai, remember, they'll be relying on the eidos of a woman. A woman is not kosher for eidos in these circumstances. So I cannot use a woman for those bedikos. Ketzad, but she could be believed lahachmir, but not lahakil. What does it mean, Abosai? Let's take a look at the Gemara. Ketzad, gedolehi shelo tamayin, ketani shelo tachlos. If after the bedika, ultimately, the woman is believed to say that the girl is a gedola, that she can't do miyun, or she's a ketana, that she can't do chalisa, aval inna emenes lomar ketani hi shetamayin ugedola hi shetachlos. But ultimately, again, she is not believed to say that halacha lamaisa, she's a ketana to do miyun, and she's a gedola that she could do chalitza, because this would represent a kula. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Mar Yehud, Amar Mar Rabbi Yehuda Omer lifnei perek ula achar perek nashim both goes also. Rabbi comes along, Rabbi Yehuda says no. We'll say for all bedikos we have women do it. So the Gemara will say just one more line. Bishom lifnei perek by bedika. So we'll say I understand lifnei perek, right before the lead up year. Sometimes the girl requires a bedika. Why? The mishtachi la'achar haperek shumaninu. Both say, listen to this. Sometimes, if you do a bedika, sometimes a bedika before the lead-up year is necessary. Why? They both say, what happens if you find hair, right, 2 hairs in a 10-year-old girl? So remember again, we saw halacha lemaisa. We saw before that we look at those hairs as growing from a mole, not necessarily as hairs of physical maturation. That's important because halacha lemaisa. What that would tell me is, if I would still find those 2 hairs sometimes later, I don't attribute those hairs to physical maturation, rather to a mole. But I will say, after the lead-up year, once she's already past her 12th year, so why do I need a bedika at all? Rava said, Ketana she'egia lichlash noseha, ain't tzricha bedika. Chazaka heviya siman. Rabbi says what we said before. Once the girl reaches the age of 12, there's no need for any kind of bedika. Why, Rabbi say? Because we assume that halacha lemaisa, once the girl reaches the age of 12, she has brought her simanim. No further bedika is necessary. Ki amarava chazaka lemiyun. Aval chalitza bayi bedika. Rabbi says very interesting. You're right. That ultimately, again, what does the chazaka tell me? Once the girl reaches the age of 12, she is a gedola. Once she's a gedola, what does that tell me? That if she was married off as a ketana, she no longer what? Has the ability to do miyun, to refuse her husband. If she wants to get divorced, she needs a get. But Rabbi say, when will we require bedika? For a case of chalitza. This is actually very interesting. That Allah Chalamaisa, if this girl was thrust into a situation of chalitza, and she's right at the age of maturation, it appears based on what the Gemara is saying over here, that she would require bedika. We would need to ascertain with absolute certainty that she is in fact a gedola, and therefore capable ultimately again of conducting chalitza. So we'll stop over for today. We're in the middle of this discussion. We'll pick up with it tomorrow.